Crochet method dreads can give you the most believable texture of the synthetic dread world. I'll show you how to create these dreads next. For your crochet method dreads, you will need your jumbo braid, a comb, your latch hook tool, of course you'll need a crochet hook, scissors, and something to attach your dreads to. For our purposes, we'll be using a dread loom. We have another tutorial on how to make that. If you don't have a dread loom, you can always use a coat hanger or something else to hook your fiber to. So I'm going to slide my fiber over one of our curling rods, and then I'm going to fasten the top down. If I was doing multiples, I could line up my fiber right on here and then just keep going. So the first step, as usual with making dreads, is to do your back combing. So the same thing applies. We're just going to be putting in large sweeping motions at first, and then we're going to come back through and we're going to shore up and do tighter motions. So what that looks like is we'll take the length of the fiber and do passes that are about this big. Don't worry if you get loops like this, we're just gonna pull those right out. We're gonna twist it a little bit so we're working on a different side. And we're doing those bigger passes first. Pulling it apart as you need to kind of even out the lumps. So when you put your back combing in at first, it's all gonna be concentrated at the bottom. So what we're actually trying to do is get some of that back combing scooted up towards the top, because that is where it's the hardest to achieve your back combing. So like if you were to look at this back combing here, you see this is kind of lower and then you'd have kind of a ball down here. We're trying to not get so much at the bottom quite yet, push more into the top. And you'll notice too, like my passes start to get tighter and tighter, and that is how you know that you're doing the right amount of back combing. So you're pushing your big passes in, getting those smaller ones kind of tightened up and in there. Now, for crochet dreads, you want a fair amount of back combing to start. You're going to continue kind of twisting your dread, making sure that you're back combing it from every angle. You want it to be very consistent before you start doing your crochet work or your texture work. Okay, so with our back combing in place, we're going to first use our latch hook tool, and we're going to create holes and pull the whole thing through. Right now, they're not super tight, so I can use my fingers to pull it through. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you that additional texture. It's going to give you like some major pieces of texture versus some finer pieces of texture that you're going to put in with your crochet hook. Make sure that when you pull it through, that the entire piece kind of flips around, so that it doesn't look like you have a lump. Kind of alternate the directions that you're pulling these through. You don't want it to all get pulled through on the same side. Because if you do that, it will start looking more like a braid than just texture to your dread. Now I should note here too, this is just how I do it. There's a lot of different ways that people use the crochet method. This is just the way that the texture comes out that I like it best. I feel like this preliminary step kind of takes some of the crochet work out of it. Okay, now we've gotten our first pass in with all of our bigger knots. The second thing we do is we come in with our crochet hook. Now this hook is a little bit special. This is a crochet hook that's actually used for doing hair foils. So it has a really nice rubberized handle. You can use a regular crochet hook, or you can find these at your beauty supply store. So we're just gonna go in to our dread, making sure that our hook is pointed towards us And we're just gonna come through and we're just gonna pull different parts of the hair up and through. Don't worry if it sounds like you're pulling too hard, it's fine. This hair is going to be used to twist it around. So we wanna be pulling out kind of some finer points because this is going to become like our knotting hair, I guess you could call it, where it gives us all of that really great texture. You wanna concentrate on doing finer pieces because if you make your pieces too fat that you wrap with, they end up looking more like your knotty no seals or more like popcorn dreads rather than a natural kind of crochet look to them. Okay, we're gonna go up and we're gonna work on that same pass. Just make sure that you're doing this from different angles. As you're pulling hair through, you'll notice that it starts to tighten down because you're gonna be pulling hair from one side through to the other side, and that's gonna cinch down your core. If you get too big of a loop like that, just ignore it, just push it back down. If you're not looking for huge pieces of hair with this, you're actually looking for the finer ones. If they're too big, they're just gonna be in your way. When you get your dread to look about like so, that's when we're gonna work on pulling that hair around and into the dread. Okay, we're back at the top and we're gonna start pulling this side hair away and off to the side and wrapping it around. You can go once or twice, but the main thing is you wanna get it around enough where you're creating kind of a flat spot, grabbing it with your crochet hook and pulling it to the inside and back through the other side. Try not to get it too clumpy. When you start getting it too clumpy, that's when you create lines. And we don't want to create a line texture, we want to create kind of that fine mesh texture. If you have an area that didn't have enough hair kind of pulled through, just go ahead and pick up some from the dread itself, and that you're going to use to wrap around. Push in, pick up that hair, give it a little bit of a twist, and pull that crochet hook along the back side to pull that through. Pick up your next section of hair. If you didn't get all of it, don't worry, you can always go back if you want to, or you can just pull it through on the next section. Take that hair, wrap it around. Another alternative you can use from using the crochet hook to pull everything through is you can use a tinier micro needle. Your regular size latch hook is going to be far too big at this point to pull that through. It's really only good for the bigger loops, but you can use one of the smaller ones. To use your micro needle, you're gonna pull that same hair away from the side. And if you feel like you've got some strands that are starting to look like bands in here, take part of that hair out and add it into the hair of your dread. So you're actually working with finer strands. Because if you work with too many of those, they're gonna start looking like ribbons around your dread. So you just want this really fine mesh of hair here. So we're gonna wrap that around, keeping it as spread out as we wrap as we can. Holding it tight, going into our dread, picking it up with our micro needle, closing the latch and pulling it through. And doing the same thing all the way down to your tips. Once you've gotten to your tips and you're pulling that last bit through, make sure you hold on to that really tight. Pick up your comb, slide down a few notches, and then just back comb that in. When you first complete your dread form with all of that back combing and all of that wrapping, it's going to be incredibly stiff. So So in order to relax them, we're just going to simply put them in a hot water bath. This has been freshly boiled, so you need to be incredibly careful and wear gloves. So you're going to put the dread all the way into the water up to the loop. You can hold on to the loop with some pliers or put them on a coat hanger, but you're just going to tuck the dread into the water and watch it relax. The next thing you're going to do is we're going to pull it out of the water and just run your fingers down the sides. That's going to help any of those extra flyaway hairs lay down to the dread, and it's also going to help that dread compact. What you'll notice right away is that your dread is now incredibly wiggly, whereas before it was really stiff. So that's good. We're just gonna set this to the side, and once that's cool, then we can go ahead and snip the tips of our dreads. Once this dread has cooled into its shape, we can go ahead and snip the tips, and now they're ready for installation. Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, make sure that you subscribe to our channel so that you never miss a beat. And if you need products for your projects, check out doctoredlocks.com for all your hair extension needs.